So Tucker Carlson. Oh, yes, Tucker. How many of you guys are a fan of Tucker Carlson? Do you like Tucker Carlson? I, for one, I have no problems with Tucker Carlson. I like Tucker. Yes, I like Tucker. And he had on someone else I happen to like, and that is a man by the name of Nick Fuentes, also known as one of the most canceled people in the United States ever. I mean, you thought Alex Jones was a canceled person. And I guess you can say that's kind of debatable right now because he does have a $1.3 billion judgment against him. And that's pretty much perpetual slavery for Alex Jones. He's still fighting those lawsuits. But when it comes to being canceled over speech, over being able to hear someone talk, probably the number one person I've ever listened to or I've ever known about has been Nick Fuentes. If you've heard his story, if you listen to his interview on Tucker Carlson, you will hear some of the struggles he has gone through in order to have his voice be heard. And another thing you'll notice when you listen to Nick Fuentes is how articulate he is. And maybe another thing you notice is how controversial he is. Yes, he is very extremely controversial. So when you have those ingredients, high IQ, extremely articulate, and extremely controversial, because he is always saying things that are inflammatory. When you have those two ingredients, you cause a lot of people to be mad at you, to be angry at you. And this, of course, has happened a lot on the left, where even if someone has good ideas, they're able to articulate their ideas. They ask these questions that might be inflammatory. They just simply wall them out. They're like, no, we don't want to talk to you because for some reason or another, maybe they're just smarter than that person. Maybe they just can't defend their views. There's a whole host of reasons why someone does not want to talk to someone else, especially in like a public setting. Or, you know, there's a whole host of reasons why maybe a political party or people that are aligned with a certain political party might not want someone's voice to be elevated to a point where they have an audience listening to them, a mass audience listening to them. Like I said, that has existed mostly on the left, it seemed. But now it does appear like this is coming from the right. A lot of people on the right do not like the fact that Nick Fuentes is now being, what's the word? Platformed. I've always hated that word, platformed. Oh, you can't platform that person because you platform that person, their ideas are going to go out there and all these idiot people are just going to believe what they say. But that seems to be what is happening on the right now, because you have this interview between Tucker Carlson and Nick Fuentes, and people on the right are freaking out. It's like, what is going on? I thought we were the party of free speech. I thought conservatives, Republicans, we liked ideas. I thought this was an open marketplace of ideas, but apparently not. And there's a lot of, shall we say, your normie Republicans that really don't like the fact that Nick Fuentes is able to go on these big platforms and speak. And you might ask, well, why does he deserve a big platform? Why should he go on Tucker Carlson? Why should he go on Tim Pool? Why should he go on all of these big shows? Well, it's because Nick Fuentes has a massive audience. Even though he has been canceled more than any commentator I know of. And he is gaining steam. He's gaining influence. And when you have influential people like that, other influential people want to talk to this person to see what he's about. And that is the case of Nick Fuentes. And for the longest time, like I said, he had been kind of put in this bubble where people pretended like he didn't exist. I've been aware of Nick Fuentes for several years. I've listened to him, and I knew it was just a matter of time before he broke through, the glass ceiling. I knew it was just a matter of time because he is extremely articulate. The way he articulates his ideas, the way he speaks, his commentary on things, it's very, very professional. And then there's other times when he breaks into tangents, of course, and he says things that are extremely inflammatory, like I said. But we have people on the right like Mark Levin here. Mark Levin, of course, is no fan of Nick Fuentes. Mark Levin is Jewish. And, of course, he is the biggest hothead when it comes to conflict in the Middle East. He is one of these people that is heavy-handed, thinking that Israel should basically blow Gaza off the map. He said some very crazy things about what should happen in the Middle East. And he is constantly jockeying for Donald Trump to go to war with pretty much any country in the Middle East. You name the country in the Middle East, except for, of course, Israel. Mark Levin wants the United States to send bombs. Well, not send bombs. To send Israel missiles to shoot over to that country or shoot over ourselves. Mark Levin wants that. He's a huge hothead. And he's one of these people that we would call a neocon. And he's Jewish. And he just shared this article by the Daily Mail. And this article, well, let's just see what he said first. He said, important piece by Josh Hammer. Now, who is Josh Hammer? Josh Hammer is if you go to his Wikipedia here, he is a conservative activist, conservative political commentator, attorney, and columnist. If you watched any of the Turning Point USA events, you might have seen Josh Hammer was the one that debated Dave Smith over, I believe it was the Iran-United States war where we bombed Iran, or I think included in that was the conflict between Israel and Gaza. That was Josh Hammer. He is one of these individuals that has been very vocal on the right. He himself is Jewish, and he is not happy about this interview between Tucker Carlson and Nick Fuentes. And I just want to read some of this article so you could kind of get a picture of how some of these people on the right, and I say that, I put air quotes, you can't see because I have a camera here and I have it shrunk down, but I say the people on the right, because people like Josh Hammer and Mark Levin, I don't think they really care about any conservative principles per se. I think when it comes to a certain subject, a certain topic, all those principles go out the window. They don't care about free speech. They don't care about, the free marketplace of ideas, things that maybe you or I care about. They start not caring about these things because someone might be critical of a certain country in the Middle East or certain influences in the United States. And Josh Hammer, he wrote this article for the Daily Mail. You have to pay to see this article, but I was able to get a paywall remover to read it. I did not pay for this article. But this is what Josh Hammer had to say. And keep in mind, as I read through this, I want you to keep this in mind that Josh Hammer is a conservative political commentator. And look at the amount of absolute rage he is spewing about Tucker Carlson simply sitting down with another influential person and talking to him. He goes, this is a headline of the article, Tucker Carlson just hit a new low with his heinous betrayal of my friend Charlie Kirk. So he's already invoking the name of Charlie Kirk, who is not even alive anymore, apparently. Or not apparently, obviously. He's not even alive anymore. But we have a lot of conservatives invoking his name and saying that Charlie Kirk would have never wanted this. Well, listen, Charlie Kirk is not here to speak for himself. So why are you invoking his name? He says that he is surely now rolling in his grave. On Monday evening, the most dangerous man in America sat to interview a confused millennial. Now, why would he label Tucker Carlson, because Tucker Carlson, not a millennial, why would he label him a dangerous man, the most dangerous man in America? Because Tucker Carlson is critical of Israel's influence on the United States and the fact that Israel is behind so many wars that the United States has fought and is consequently behind a lot of the debt that we see ourselves in right now. What is our national debt now? It's like $38 trillion. It's crazy. Wars are expensive, man. And the number one warmonger is Israel. And we are constantly going to war for their enemies. And we have these people on the right that are constantly trying to reframe Israel's enemies as our enemies, trying to conflate the two countries as if the United States and Israel are the same country. And let me say it right now, we are not the same country, okay? You might like Israel, but we are not the same country. I tend to have an affinity for the United States. I've never been to Israel. I wasn't born in Israel. I was born right here in the United States in Minnesota. So when I see all of our tax dollars going to fund wars for Israel, carrying out wars in the Middle East that just so happen to connect to Israel and their enemies, I have a problem with that, okay? The pair, this goes on, the pair who for months had been regaling the masses with a bit of low-rent turf war kayfabe, implying the other was an undercover federal agent, decided to drop the faux hatchet once and for all. Because Nick Fuentes, well, I think it was Tucker Carlson first. He accused Nick Fuentes of being a Fed, and then Nick Fuentes accused Tucker Carlson of being a Fed because it's more, I guess, suspicious on Tucker Carlson's side, because Tucker Carlson's dad was in the CIA. And it's, you know, it's like once a CIA agent, once your family's in the CIA, are you really out of it? So that was a lot of the basis behind Nick Fuentes calling Tucker Carlson a Fed. Tucker Carlson didn't really have much to go off of calling Nick Fuentes a Fed because Nick Fuentes, he doesn't have any connections to any political groups, really any funding sources. He seems like he's a normal guy from Chicago. This goes on. They did not so necessarily because they care for one another, but because, hold on a second. Okay. They did so not necessarily, let me read this correctly, because they care for one another, but because their shared passion for tackling a mutual foe, Western civilization, which for millennia has claimed the Hebrew Bible, the Old Testament, as its preeminent moral and legal wellspring. Just to be clear, I'm not talking about George Soros and Hassan Piker. This was a chat between the erstwhile king of cable news, Tucker Carlson, and Nick Fuentes. So he is comparing Tucker and Nick Fuentes to George Soros and Hassan Piker. Are you kidding me right now? So he's building up this giant issue around Tucker Carlson simply sitting down to talk to Nick Fuentes. What does this remind you of? Okay. What does this remind you of? This reminds you of, like, hey, you're talking to a Nazi. You're talking to this person. This reminds me of the left accusing Donald Trump and anyone who's associated him of being aligned with the little mustache man. The loquacious Holocaust denier, who has been leading anti-Semitic provocateur since he first burst onto the political commentary scene a decade ago. Fuentes, perhaps most infamous for a 2019 rant where he analogized Jews massacred by the Nazis to the Sesame Street character Cookie Monster baking cookies in an oven in an attempt to explain why 6 million dead Jews at the hand of the Nazis just doesn't make sense. Stayed true to his form during the Tucker Carlson interview. So the one thing I know about this is Fuentes himself is not a denier of the Holocaust, okay? He has made some references to the Holocaust, and he's said it's dubious that the 6 million number is accurate, but he himself has not denied the Holocaust, or at least I've never heard him deny the Holocaust. I think he questions the numbers, and it's okay to question things. At various points, Fuse mused about the evils of organized Jewry and contended that discredited neoconservatism cannot be divorced from Jewishness. That's news to this Jew. The host's response, in turn, was so fawning that it amounted to a laundering of Fuentes' repugnant beliefs. Fuentes, who has personally called me filth and said that Jews like me and broadcaster Mark Levin are not American and do not belong here, predictably claimed yet again on Carlson's show that American Jews put the interests of Israel over the interests of their own country. And we got some screenshots here of the interview. If you want to check it out for yourself, go to Tucker Carlson's channel. It's a great interview. It's a monstrous, destructive lie. He claimed that Jews hate Europeans because the Romans destroyed the temple in Jerusalem 2 millennia ago. It's simply preposterous. So this right here, this claim that Jews hate Europeans because Romans destroyed the temple in Jerusalem millennia ago. Now, I don't know about all Jews, if that's why they hate Europeans. I really don't know much about this topic. I do know that Eric Weinstein, I don't know if you know Eric Weinstein. He's this Jewish academic, and this was a while ago. This is probably about a year ago, maybe. He posted a photo flipping off this symbol or this monument that had to do with what Josh Hammer is talking about here. I forgot what it's actually called, but I mean, he cared enough to flip off that monument or building, whatever it was, that represented what happened when the Romans destroyed the temple in Jerusalem. So, I mean, take that for what it's worth. It's not nothing, I'm not an expert on that subject, but I do remember that specifically because I do follow Eric Weinstein. I've listened to a lot of his podcasts. I listened to his podcast when he went on Joe Rogan, a lot of his other stuff. And when he posted that, I thought that was interesting. This goes on, but the Jewish people themselves only represent the tip of the spear of what the Carlson Fuentes cabal represents. Carlson personally saved his most seething hatred for his fellow Christians and those of a Zionist disposition in particular. Specifically, Carlson said that Christian Zionists are dangerous heretics and that he despises them more than anyone else on earth, certainly more than the Sharia law proponents on whose behalf Tucker Carlson has taken curiously to offering meek apologia. So yeah, Tucker Carlson did say that he does despise. I think he used the word dislikes. He dislikes very much Christian Zionists. And I happen to share some of that dislike. I don't think that you can suspend your critical thinking and just simply accept what another country or another type of person is doing and simply support it just because you say that the Bible says so. That's to me is what Christian Zionism does. You accept whatever a foreign country is doing, and the only proof you have that it's right is like, well, in the Bible, it says that we were grafted on and these are God's people. So therefore we must support anything that they do. And it's like, we put these people in a special class. We put that country in a special class. We give them billions and billions and billions of dollars for what? I mean, the purported reason is because of the Bible, but then you start to inspect kind of under the hood. You understand that there is a lot of money being exchanged as well. So it's when you start to look at all the moving parts, you start to question it. And then when you start to question it, then you're called a anti-Semite. It's very interesting how it works. And this is kind of the result of what we are seeing here with Tucker Carlson and Nick Fuentes. And then we got Josh Hammer, one of these spokespeople for, of course, Israel and the Jews, because he himself is the Jews. Ironically, it is Carlson himself who is a Christian heretic. In an August podcast episode, Carlson confessed to his guest that he just read his Bible's Old Testament for the first time last year and that he was shocked by the violence and genocide he encountered therein. As I noted last month, the contention that the God of the Hebrew Bible is not the God of the New Testament is quite literally heretical on Christianity's own terms. And as I noted, let me go to this next paragraph here. In fact, it is Marcionism, the fringe doctrine that there are two gods, a vengeful Old Testament God and a benevolent God revealed through Jesus Christ. Make no mistake, there is a sprawling information operation afoot, and that has as its goal the fracturing of the ecumenical Jewish Christian biblical alliance that long ago built and which can alone sustain Western civilization, and that civilization is leading light of the United States. So this article goes on. I mean, it's a fairly long article. He ends it. He says, they hope to burn down MAGA and build a neo-pagan, anti-Western, anti-biblical movement in its stead. The fox is now comfortably ensconced in the hen house, and unless the fox is neutralized, the victim could be the entire extent of the GOP coalition itself. So the whole GOP could crash and burn because Tucker Carlson is speaking to Nick Fuentes. Oh, how sad. This is Josh Hammer himself talking about this, freaking out. Listen.
To me, that is what the Tucker wing is trying to do. They're not trying to kind of have an inclusive movement, right? They're not trying to kind of have a marketplace of ideas, kind of free for all conversation. That's what they would have you believe. That's actually not what they're interested in doing. They're trying to burn it all down. They're trying to destroy the current iteration of the American right, literally destroy it root and branch, and then build something new in its stead.
So this is how you know they're aligned, because Tucker Carlson, he doesn't really gatekeep people from coming on his show. Tucker Carlson has a wide range of interlocutors on his show. He talks to a lot of people. It's the people like Josh Hammer who won't talk to people like Nick Fuentes. So they want to gatekeep certain ideas, certain people from being talked to, even if they're influential like Nick Fuentes. There's no other reason to not have him on Tucker's show. I mean, he's influential. That's how shows work. If you have someone of kind of the same status as you, gaining steam, gaining popularity, you want to, like I said, you want to find out what this guy is about. But people like Josh Hammer wants people like that gatekept. I mean, I think Josh Hammer would love it if Tucker Carlson was gatekept from the movement as well. So they want only certain ideas to be talked about. And you see it with a lot of what's going on. You see people constantly slamming Tucker. I think Nick Fuentes, for most people, is kind of a lost cause. But Tucker has been a part of the establishment on the right for a very long time. And it wasn't until just recently where he began to air his concerns about the foreign influence of Israel on the United States and AIPAC. And of course, there was his famous interview with Ted Cruz. And when that started happening, all of a sudden, it was almost like someone flipped on a switch. You had, it's like every day, people pounding Tucker. Laura Loomer came up with a nickname for Tucker Carlson. She calls him Tucker Catarlson. And so that's an attempt to try to ostracize, to get people to have this instinctual feeling about Tucker that he is ostracized, that he is part of the out group. And it's not anything where you're making up your own mind. It's not anything where you listen to his ideas and kind of weighing the evidence and the facts. No, Tucker bad. Kind of like Orange Man bad. Tucker bad. And the only reason why Tucker bad is because Tucker talk about Israel, okay? And now Tucker bad because Tucker talked to another person on his show. So it's very interesting. There was also a thing that came out. There was some speculation that the Heritage Foundation, which is a conservative think tank, was going to be distancing themselves from Tucker Carlson. And this is Kevin Roberts. He is the founder of the Heritage Foundation. He came on. He did a video and he said, this is actually not true.
I'll have more to say on this in the coming days. But today I want to be clear about one thing. Christians can critique the state of Israel without being anti-Semitic.
Amen, brother.
Of course, anti-Semitism should be condemned. My loyalty as a Christian and as an American is to Christ first.
Okay, to that I will say, but what exactly is anti-Semitism? That's the thing. Anti-Semitism has kind of gone the way of like racist. Like they constantly broaden the definition to where, I mean, you do one small little thing, you say a innocuous thing, and all of a sudden you're anti-Semitic. Just like with racism, you do something that's seemingly innocuous, and they say, well, the racist label should be slapped on your forehead. See, that's the problem. I think the issue is what exactly is anti-Semitism anymore? You can't, like, no one really knows, because to one person it means, like Josh Hammer, you say Israel did something I don't like, you're anti-Semitic. To someone like Tucker Carlson and Nick Fuentes, it's a whole different definition. So what exactly is the definition? So that's the problem I have with what he's saying there.
And to America always. When it serves the interests of the United States to cooperate with Israel and other allies, we should do so with partnerships on security, intelligence, and technology.
I don't think we should partner with Israel on intelligence at all. I don't trust the intelligence coming from Assad. I really don't. I'm just going to be honest with you.
Conservatives should feel no obligation to reflexively support any foreign government, no matter how loud the pressure becomes from the globalist class or from their mouthpieces in Washington. The Heritage Foundation didn't become the intellectual backbone of the conservative movement by canceling our own people or policing the consciences of Christians.
Correct.
We won't start doing that now. We don't take direction from comments on X, though we are grateful for the robust free speech debate. We also don't take direction from members or donors, though we are inherently grateful for their support. And we're adding more every day. This is the robust debate we invite with our colleagues, our movement friends, our members, and the American public.
So I do respect him for going out there and saying that, and for quelling these rumors, saying this is not actually true. We're not going to distance ourselves from Tucker Carlson simply because he talked to Nick Fuentes, who has been radioactive for a long time and has a lot of controversial views that seem to revolve around Israeli and Jewish influence in the United States. So I do respect that. But Nick Fuentes, he did respond to this. He must have watched the whole video, which I didn't. But he said, I don't know what exactly you abhor about my views, but we can all agree that free speech, Christ and America first, should be the pillars of our movement. Thank you for your courage in standing up for open discourse and defending Tucker against the Israel first woke right. So that is what Nick Fuentes had to say. And Nick Fuentes, the guy, you can't deny, the guy is, he is breaking through the matrix right now. He really is. Like I said, when I first started listening to him, I don't listen to him like every night or anything like that. But when I first started hearing about Nick Fuentes and I first listened to him, he was on a different streaming site. It was called cozy.tv. And this is a website that he had to make himself in order to stream, because he was banned on every single streaming platform imaginable. I mean, you think of the streaming platform, he was banned on it. So he had to make a website himself that allowed him to stream to an audience. And he did that for a very long time. He did that for, I don't know, 2 years, maybe 2-3 years, maybe, until it kind of started to change for him. And he started having some momentum when Elon Musk bought X, allowed him back on the platform. And then, of course, Rumble became a thing and he was put on Rumble. Then his audience started to, it was like a snowball effect. It got huge. But very recently, he has started to go on some massive shows. I mean, he's been on Patrick Bet-David. Of course, he was on Tucker Carlson. He went on Candace Owens. There was a couple more that he went on, but these were massive, massive shows. And now that he is kind of in the mainstream, I guess, making his rounds to all these podcasts, it looks like Tim Pool is going to be having Nick Fuentes on his show soon. This is what Tim Pool had to say about Nick Fuentes.
The anti-Fuentes stuff is completely overblown. I think Fuentes has said some nasty things and has some bad opinions. And I'm gonna make sure everybody hears this, because we are going to have him on Timcast IRL. I have had on substantially worse leftists. We have had on leftists who have called for the abortion of babies up to 9 months or even potentially after birth.
See, that is a great, huge, great point right there. You have Republicans and conservatives. They will talk to a liberal who has the wackiest views about abortion up to birth, after birth. They have views about, I don't know, being able to change your sex as a kid. And you have all of these conservatives that have no problem. Josh Hammer, Dave Rubin, Ben Shapiro, they have no problem sitting down with someone who has these abhorrent views. But when it comes to someone that has views on Israel and questioning Israel's influence in the United States, especially someone as articulate as Nick Fuentes. I don't know if you've listened to the guy. The guy can talk, man. The guy has a gift for words. Now, you can judge his ideas, but I think it's pretty objective. The guy has a gift for speaking and for laying his ideas out there in an understandable way. And I think that's what really is threatening to a lot of these people. But they have no problem sitting down with a liberal. I like someone like Destiny. Ben Shapiro has sat down, had a whole podcast with Destiny, and Destiny has some disgusting views on things. He laughed when Donald Trump had his assassination attempt, and he said that the guy that got killed as a result of that assassination attempt, he said that he deserved it. He said he deserved it because he was there. Ben Shapiro sat down with this guy and talked to him. Now, do I have a problem with Ben Shapiro talking to this guy? I absolutely not. I have no problem with it. But what I do find is very odd is Ben Shapiro will sit down with that guy, but he won't sit down with someone like Nick Fuentes. He won't even touch him with a 10-foot pole. Now, why is that? I think you can deduce why that is. But I did listen to the Tucker Carlson, Nick Fuentes podcast interview, whatever. And I think this was one of my favorite things Nick Fuentes said. He commented on the deportations and what Donald Trump should do when it comes to deporting these people. Take a listen.
Really worried about is what's happening at these ICE detention centers, where it's happening not far from where I live in Broadview, Illinois, where they set up an ICE detention facility, and the administration is rounding these people up, which I support, but they're doing it in a very provocative way. They're broadcasting it. They're making hype edits on Twitter of like these raids on apartment complexes, which I think are very cool, but it's somewhat provocative. And Antifa showing up. In order to protect ICE, the administration's putting DHS. Well, now they're protesting the DHS presence, and the administration of the governor of Illinois and the mayor of Chicago are telling Chicago police, don't help ICE. And they're encouraging the protesters. And what I see there is like a level of tension that just keeps increasing.
Yes.
And there's leadership. There's civilian leadership on both sides. Like the governor and mayor who are Democrats won't back down versus a Republican president. There's a security division too, the police versus ICE, the police versus DHS. There's a constitutional question about the federal supremacy, you know, and I see all the ingredients of like a low boil civil conflict, full blown civil war. And I'm not that guy, but I see all the ingredients there for that to happen. So I'm deeply concerned about where that will go.
How would you handle it if you're in charge? If you're the president, what do you do about that?
I think maybe this is controversial, but they have to crush the other side.
Boom. And that's what I like. Now, people say that Nick Fuentes is extreme. He does say some extreme things. Some of them he says in jest, some of them he means. I think he does actually mean this. And I think he's absolutely correct. We have to crush the other side. And when I say crush, I don't mean like violence, but when they break the law like this, when you see what's going on in Chicago with J.B. Pritzker and a lot of these communities that are telling their police forces to help these protesters go against the DHS agents, that has to be crushed. Because if you don't crush that, it's going to give them a little bit of momentum. They're not going to take it seriously. It has to be a brick wall that they run into. Like, listen, that is a line you do not cross. When you cross that line, you're breaking the law. You're going to jail for a long time. Listen to how Nick Fuentes, listen to how he characterizes it.
Because you can do one of two things. You cannot challenge the left and let them do their thing, or you can utterly confront them and defeat them and remove hope from the equation. If you resist, you will be arrested. Like this is an insurrection. There's 10 million people here illegally. We're getting them out. You're rioting. You're going to jail too. Like it has to be crushed. But if you do anything less than that, if you do in the middle, all you're doing is antagonizing and feeding the other side. And if they think there's a chance they can win, they will get bolder and stronger and they'll start to rally. And that's when it's sort of like people think it's close or like it's contentious. That's when it breathes. That's when.
So, yeah, he's absolutely correct there. That if you don't completely crush it, if you don't stamp that out, there's going to be major, major problems. The consequences for what they're doing in some of these cities should be similar to the consequences of what happened if you were a J6 protester and you were on the Capitol grounds that day. What happened? Well, you had the FBI kick down your door and put you in a dark hole. That's what happened. Of course, that was not okay. But you have an evil side like the left. They're willing to go above and beyond to try to stamp out the right. But when it comes to the right wing, when we are trying to instill law and order into the United States, it's like we're constantly handling it with kid gloves. No, law and order must reign supreme. We must stamp this stuff out. There should be no hope. If you are going against DHS agents, if you are going against federal agents, if you are inciting these riots as a politician or as a police force, if you are helping rioters and people who are throwing rocks at these DHS agents, if you are helping illegal immigrants evading DHS agents like that judge did in Milwaukee, you should go to jail. You should have the book thrown at you, and you should be made an example of. I completely agree with Nick Fuentes here. But what do you guys think now? I know a lot of you may not be aware of who Nick Fuentes is and all of this stuff. I know you probably see a lot of stuff on the internet, people bashing Tucker Carlson and Nick Fuentes. But I got to say, I get a bad taste in my mouth when I see this kind of stuff. Now, you can bash Nick Fuentes, you can bash Tucker Carlson, you can talk about their views and things that you disagree with, but it seems to be a lot of name calling. It seems to be a lot of people calling him stuff like Tucker Carlson. And it seems like they're just mad that he has certain views or certain questions about a certain foreign country that seems to have a lot of influence in the United States. That's what it seems to me. But what do you guys think? Let me know what you think down below in the comments. Like and subscribe to the channel. I'd really appreciate it. But until then, I will see you on the next one.